It's been over 46 years since the Islamic Revolution saw Iranian mullahs take control of Iran and declare itself the enemy of the civilized West. 620 days since October the 7th and the fight back against Iranian proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and in Syria and Yemen. Not even the length of a working week since Israel took on Iran directly. The head of the Iranian armed forces can't hold down a job for more than 4 days. And the latest salvo of ballistic missiles from Iran consisted of a couple of lonely rockets. Will the USA join before the victory parade starts?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's taken Israel less than a week to all but get rid of the Islamic Republic's regime. And of course, by now the supreme leader must have worked out in his head that it's lonely at the top. Since, as Richard pointed out, the latest head of the IRGC, which, by the way, now is known as the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corpses, was taken out yesterday. The old Islamic tyrant is probably now turned into a walking colostomy bag, never knowing whether the next bang is for him, especially since yesterday's performance of the IDF on Iranian television, which literally brought down the roof. Today, we are continuing the discussion about the events between Israel and Iran. We could just say the victory of Israel over Iran at this stage. We don't get to celebrate often on this channel, certainly for the last 620 days. Bearing in mind that some of the victims of October 7, some of the hostages are still held by the Gazans. We are kind of celebrating the achievement of Israel right now and rejoice in the words of the German Chancellor Merz that Israel is doing the dirty job in order to keep us all safe in the future. Daniel, how do you feel about this latest round of events, really?
And welcome everybody to the Daily Objective.
Yeah, I mean, there was another missile attack, I think like 15, 20 minutes ago, something like that. And yeah, it follows the sort of the recent phenomenon of the way Iran is doing. It is they are not managing to send even 10 missiles. It's a very few, although still the same sirens sort of go. People have to take shelter. People are staying safe, I hope, to the greatest ability they have. So yeah, Iran pretty much is losing any capability. Now we just had another truth from from the president of the United States, Donald Trump. It's all caps, unconditional surrender, exclamation mark. So we can go to some of the other truths he gave us recently. But yeah, there was also like a I don't know what to call it, but like a national security meeting at the White House at the situation room. Yeah, it seems like there might be something happening. There are also, I think Reuters has been reporting that there are jets, American jets flying into the Middle East. So it looks like there might be some action coming from the United States. But as you've mentioned, there might not even need to be one because Iran is losing heavily. They do not really have almost any offensive capability at this point. So yeah, they're getting completely dismantled. And Israel is, I think Israel has also recently announced that the campaign, basically everything they had planned for the Northwest region should take about a week. So we are 3 or 4 days in. So in the next couple of days, all of their goals should be completed. And even IDF has said that they are surprised by the amount of stuff they have been able to almost like get away with or basically do in Iran so far. And they are kind of running out of targets. So doing great.
Absolutely. And it certainly seems to have caught everybody on the hop, just how fast and how speedy this has been. Isn't that why Trump had to leave the G7 summit early? Because there was a danger that the whole war would be over before the meeting was. and and he needed to get back and ensure he could be part of the victory. Now, in a sense, it's nice to see the Israelis finish the job themselves, but also it is nice to make sure that the West is part of that victory, in the sense that you've seen too many Western leaders taking the de-escalation line, we come to diplomacy line, even at this point in the game, and the rest of the G7 don't exactly look any sharper, any brighter, any more on the button than Trump is. They're just taking a different tack, and it's a worse tack, frankly. So even if it's a late addition to this, and of course that's not to say that the US doesn't help Israel substantially, both in terms of finance and intel and support, and we don't know exactly what they've been doing together with the Israelis in terms of making sure that all of the victories so far have been possible. But nevertheless, it would be nice to see where we seem to be heading at the moment, which is not a piece of paper which everybody comes to the table with. But if it's a piece of paper, it is that unconditional surrender. It is that your nuclear facilities will be utterly blown to smithereens, and just sign here and we'll hit the button on them. That's the kind of end to this that needs to be seen to make it decisive.
And of course, the important thing here is the direct involvement of the United States, because Israel by itself hasn't got the gear to penetrate the depth in order to reach some of the facilities, especially the latest ones. There are hundreds of meters underground, so you need the bombs that America has, the proper bunker busting ones, the serious babies will be able to go deep into the ground and destroy the facilities that Iran has been hiding in contravention to the beloved international legislation. But yeah, the important thing right now is that Israelis seems to be safer than ever. If anything else, because most of the arsenal that the Iranians were holding on to, the ballistic missiles, seem to be as good as wiped out. Not necessarily wiped out physically, but all the facilities and the infrastructure that allows the Iranian to launch these missiles seem to have been dismantled. By the way, welcome, Anders, to this episode.
Thank you.
We were talking about how the capability of the Iranians been effectively wiped out, how Trump told us that now Israel and the United States have got supremacy over the airspace in Iran. So we expect something serious happening, and hopefully nothing less than a total surrender. So how do you see these latest events? You haven't been on the show yet since these things happened, because frankly it's been so fast that you blink and you miss it.
Yeah, we talk about the fog of war, and when you put Donald Trump in the mix, I basically refuse to speculate. But I mean, objectively speaking, and you have probably talked about this, what has to happen is that this photo installation where they have their nuclear where they're putting it all together basically obviously has to be destroyed, and sincerely I hope that the US decide to either take it out with the Buster bombs itself, or lend the Israelis some B-2s or whatever the plane is that carries those bombs, and let them do it. But then above all, we need regime change. Now, it has never been as close to that now in the past 50 years. And if the allegations are true that Trump vetoed the Israelis when it came to taking out the Iranian leadership, which they supposedly had the chance to do along with these and such, he said no. So that's Donald Trump. There have been reports about people leaving Tehran. You have probably talked about that too. The airport is closed, but apparently there have been planes leaving. So if it's the leadership of Iran that has shipped out their relatives and families, who knows if they will all end up in Moscow with Assad or what the next step is for them. But if this ends with anything less than regime change, it's been a failure in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. And Daniel, just before we came on air, there was a latest truth tweet, or whatever you want to call it, a truthism from Donald Trump. Do you want to tell us exactly what he said in that one, especially concerning the Al-Khamenei?
Sure. I mean, my favorite part of Truth Social is sometimes it bugs out, and when it does, it says no truth, which is, funny. But yeah, so one thing he said at first is we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Now, this confused many people because who is we? Because this could mean America is now in the Middle East or is actively over the skies of Iran. Now, we didn't get clarification for this. It was retweeted a bunch of times. Then the second one was, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out. Kill, in brackets, at least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then he posted unconditional surrender in all caps as a separate truth. So yeah, still kind of, we don't know. But yeah, I mean, the fact that if it's true that we know where Ayatollah is, and I cannot see any reason why we are not just taking him out. I cannot see what is sort of like a short-term goal, or what is the benefit of simply not taking him out. I think yesterday or on earlier show today, I think you can have like one sort of good thing is if you manage to take him out at the best specific time. I think when America joins, that's exactly where he should be taken out. Is you have these two events together, both your supreme leader is gone, you have no replacement, you have nobody to do the decisions now, and the biggest military in the world joins on you. I think those two events together can bring down complete collapse of the Iranian regime. That's the only 4D chess I could see for basically a reason why we haven't taken him out already.
Yeah, and you have to hand him to DJ Trump. The fact that on this particular issue he sees it quite clearly that Iran is the evil guy here, because he just came back from the meeting with the other G7, and what did they give us? Usual platitude, usual diplomatic solution and stuff like that. And even the little spat with Macron seems to fit, especially with the background of what's happened at the defense air show in Paris, where the Israeli stole the section where the Israeli were showing off the gear was surrounded by a black wall. Jews have to be in a ghetto, don't they, according to the French? And effectively,
they got a live presentation.
Effectively, this didn't really help in diplomatic matters at the G7, did it? And I'm quite glad that Trump never went down the route of diplomatic solution, even though for most of the time it looked like he was going to. But now, whether he was always behind Israel with some support, or whether he's just joining now because he smells the deal to be done, especially on those oil fields in Iran. Who knows? But who cares? I mean, the result, if the result is the getting rid of this family regime, yeah, I'll take it. Anders.
Yeah. Again, you never know where you have Trump. It sounds like right now he's on the side of perhaps taking action, but you never know. He might be back to a deal here this afternoon, for all that I know. And yeah, I refuse to speculate when it comes to Donald Trump.
Sure. Although I think we probably can say that knowing the character of the man, we know that he would want to be on the winning side, clearly, and it would. It's no harm for Israel's future to say that Israel has done this together with America to some
Yeah.
extent. Is it in terms of a future and a future relationship with the US?
Yeah, no, and the we that you mentioned, the we, I mean, it's Trump now, as I see it, he's trying to take credit for this whole operation that Israel has amazingly initiated and done so well in.
So
I
I might
did,
just, yeah, sorry,
yeah,
just quickly jump in. White House official clarified that when President Trump said we, he was referring to the United States, that United States has a complete and total control over the skies over Iran. So I have no idea what that even means, special in this. If it actually means that America is already in sort of Iran and is going to do, although we have no reports of that.
no, it could also mean the imperial we, that is Donald Trump personally has complete control over the Iranian airspace. Who knows?
Yeah, and either way, even whether it's monitoring through intelligence or monitoring from some of the aircraft carrier that's been sent, and together with the Israelis, it doesn't really matter, is it? The important thing is that Iran doesn't have control of the Iranian sky. That's what really counts, and you're seeing that in terms of those reduction in each number of missiles that comes across has been reducing rapidly, and the Israelis have been able to take them out, more and more prior to them even entering Israeli airspace in many cases. So all of that is indicative of the air superiority which together they now have, and whoever polices that, whether that's Israel or whether it's together with the US, even if the US is only providing intel as to where missile launchers are, and it's the Israelis who strike them. It doesn't really matter, does it? The important thing is the good side versus the evil side, and you can see that evil is on the run. And one of the things that evil has been shown up to be, something that Ayn Rand pointed out repeatedly, is it's weak. It's much weaker than people think it is. And don't you think that this conflict has shown that in particular? And as well, what do you think of
Yeah,
that?
no, I totally agree. And hopefully we're learning from this too as we go forward, because we have made the same mistake over and over and over again. So I mean, you should take your enemies seriously, but don't overestimate. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. How all the pundits uh, predicted that it would be ended in weeks, and here we are. Are we 3 years later now? And it's still going on. And the same with Israel. You know how Israel took out Hezbollah, how they have, and we wish they would have done a lot more and a lot earlier to Hamas to end the conflict in Gaza, which they easily could have done. And now again, it proves the fact that the enemy is weak, and that we haven't done what we should have done to Iran and let it come to this point over the past 50 years is just an indictment of the pragmatic lack of principle, primarily American foreign policy in the last few decades.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no deny that all the deals that the West did with Iran absolutely designed effectively just to make Iran the winner out of it. Whichever terms we agreed on, Iran was the one benefiting from it because effectively we give them the benefit of the doubt and the ability to do what they want, and that was a little mistake. And of course. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but Iran is a historic anachronism, if you like, because it's a regime born out of the Soviet Union, really, supported by the Soviet Union, and now that is it a coincidence that Russia being revealed as to be as weak as it is, being whooped ass by the Ukrainians, now is no longer able to support the old Iranian regime. So makes you wonder whether part of the weakness of Iran itself comes from the fact that the other evil actors are no longer able to cooperate with them. And of course, we know that these regimes are so totally corrupted by the very nature of they are, which is effectively a bunch of crooks taking over the resources of a country and enslaving the population. So they couldn't possibly be superior, just like the USSR wasn't, be superior to the free world. So we're seeing effectively now the compounding effects of totalitarianism, don't we? Daniel, do you think the Russian situation has got something to do with Iran, or is just that they were always, because of their nature, doomed to fail?
We'll just quickly B-52s have been deployed to Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is a base, I think, in Indian Ocean, sort of somewhat close to Iran. Which are big ass bombers, as far as I understand. So yeah, your question was if this was sort of like always to happen. I think fundamentally these dictatorships need to rely or not rely on each other, but every of those dictatorship is getting a certain amount of sanction from the West, right? Russia has been trading with us and basically getting our money because we refuse to develop our own energy sectors. China has been stealing our intellectual property and using that for their uses. Iran has been like funding the proxies around it, trying to fight against us. And so all of them were getting some sanctions from the West and then dealing with each other with that, right? But now that all of them are getting busy. Russia is busy in Ukraine. Iran has been somewhat busy trying to deal with Israel with its proxies. That's why Assad's regime fell so fast. So now they have no longer proxy there. Russia, is getting like North Korean troops. China has its own things to deal with. They are planning their own invasion of Taiwan. They do not really have resources. And as every dictatorship has to be by its nature, they are not friends. They are allies of convenience. But dictatorships cannot ally with each other. They are their own enemies. So it's always under suspicion. The only reason why China and Russia want Iran to stay in the region is because it's helping them to keep somebody else busy. Because once America doesn't have to deal with Iran, once America doesn't have to be in the Middle East, I mean, once Iran is gone, there is almost zero reason for America to really be in the Middle East. So yeah, once all those resources can go somewhere else, that's a problem for Russia. That's a problem for China. So yeah, these regimes will fall because they are inept by its nature. And yeah, that's why we have to fight them. And that's why the domino effect is taking place. You take out Hezbollah, Assad's regime falls, Iran is on the brink of collapse, Russia, China, North Korea are next. And after that, I mean, not only peace in the Middle East, but how about peace on the earth? I mean, at that point, the only dictatorships that are around the world are sort of internal, that are not even strong enough to, have any sort of outside influence.
And to achieve that kind of peace across the world, the kind of there needs to be more than a Miss World statement of desire, isn't it? And it's done through the aggressive actions against those evil dictators across the world, isn't it? It's not done by declaring you want world peace or you want a negotiated settlement with dictators. And I think when we talk about the fact that evil is often weak. And it's always weak when you actually get to it. That's not to say that Iran wasn't extremely close to developing, to being able to fire the nuclear warheads that they've been prohibited from assembling for decades. That is absolutely true. That's absolutely the case, that they were getting closer and closer to that. Now, whether that's a matter of days, a matter of weeks, is impossible for us to know sitting here. But clearly, the progress was in one direction and accelerated in one direction only. And it's been the taking out of things like the nuclear scientists and stuff by Israel, including in those car bombs. Was it yesterday or the day before? It's hard to tell. Everything happening so fast. But either way, all of this is not to underestimate what an enemy Iran was, but how easily it is to be taken out. And that's not by writing memos to say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That is by actually ensuring that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Anders.
Yeah, and I think it's important here, though, to differentiate between dictatorships and dictatorships. There are dictatorships that are not a threat to in this case, from my perspective, the United States of America. In which case that there may not be a valid reason for us to go in or to do anything. But in the case of Iran, Iran has explicitly said that long term the US is the big Satan, right? That is part of their policy and their goals, whether that is tomorrow, 10 years from now, or 100 years from now. So in this case, it's clearly in the self-interest of the American people that our government is acting decisively. We should have done it 50 years ago, immediately after or around the hostage crisis. We haven't done it. Better late than never. Hopefully it will happen this time.
Yeah. Daniel, earlier on you mentioned Diego Garcia, which is the UK-US base on the Chagos Island. The very island which is part of the UK territory, and the very islands which are current anti-progress and anti-human
flourishing
and anti-British government, anti-progress government, is actually in the process of heaving off to the Mauritius government, an Islamic State, which will own the island on which the US-UK base is at the moment. And that shows how important that base would have been for the UK. We're going to lease it back by paying billions to the Mauritius. But that's the kind of stupid mistakes that leaders in the West do all the time, appeasing everyone else in the name of how bad the West has been or is, or this kind of woke craziness that comes from hating the progress and the kind of culture that developed the kind of freedoms we have, and by appeasing people who really are not friends of freedom and individual rights. But hey, that's where we are. Can I speculate something else, Anders? It's about Hamas itself, because of course we know the situation in Gaza is still live. And do you think Hamas, after the virtual fall of the Islamic regime in Iran, will start thinking, well, perhaps we should surrender?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, but I guess if they have any rationality left, they would kind of give up and want to escape with their lives intact if they have anywhere to go after Iran is gone. I don't know. Hopefully, we can hope that Hamas is laying down their weapons and say, sorry, guys, or they won't say sorry, but we'll give up on this. But I wouldn't bet on it. That's for sure. So I think it's really important for Israel to continue and put pressure on Hamas and on the region. And as I've said many times before, I think the only solution is for Israel to occupy Gaza for the duration until the people of Gaza have switched their allegiance and their interests to living a rational life, pursuing their happiness. And I know the Israelis probably don't want to do it, but as I see it, that's the only possible long-term solution.
And I think, Daniel, there's been more activity taking place in Gaza by the Israelis, haven't they? Including trying to sort out some of those tunnels in in Gaza itself. Can you update us on what's been going on there?
Yeah, I mean, sort of like any news outside of Iran, even inside of Israel, is sort of going is sort of like falling through the cracks. But yeah, there is one of the major tunnels, one where Sinwar, but not that Sinwar, his what was it, his brother or
Yeah,
Mohammed, yeah.
Mohammed, yeah.
Mohammed Sinwar, the tunnel he was found in, that was of course under either school or hospital, has been completely sealed off, meaning completely filled with concrete, so they will no longer be able to be used by Hamas or by any other terrorist organization. So yeah, that's great to see. It's great that Israel is continuing to sort of act in Gaza. They are still distributing aid. Apparently, there was another like dozen or so Palestinians in Gaza have died uh, on their way to get the aid from Israel. I haven't seen anything about what specifically did it, but if we go by experience, usually Hamas is trying to stop Palestinians from getting aid from Israel. So it wouldn't be surprise me if it was that again. Now I wanted to just quickly mention on the sort of retarded nature, I have to say it like that, of the fact that the UK is giving up the islands. Again, those islands were not taken from anybody. They were empty when, well, technically France was the first one who came there, but Britain took it from France because they cannot take care of islands. But it was empty, similar to Falklands that Argentina tried to claim as their own because it's like close to them or something. It was British settler, or I'm not sure if it was British. It was like British, Spanish, and French settlers who were first on that island. Those were empty islands before somebody else came in and claimed them. The idea that just because they are far away from you, or just because this country is somehow like closer to it, somehow that gives you the right to that island is ridiculous. I think like 95% of people even occupying the island are British and Americans because it's mostly used as a military base. So yeah, that the whole yeah.
Incidentally, do you know who cheered after the deal was announced? China. Of course,
Yeah.
China is very close to the Mauritian government. So guess, just
And China itself.
I don't know what's the details of the deals. You said that the UK will lease back the base for how many years?
we return sovereignty to the Mauritian government,
Right.
and in return, we pay billions in leasing the.
I think the lease is for about 99 years, if I remember rightly, and it's several hundred billion pounds that we would pay Mauritius over the course of that time.
And what is the US's? I mean, the US has a large presence there. Are we the US? Are we basically there at the?
It looked like the deal was agreed by the US as well, but I do hope. I don't think it's actually finalized yet totally. I hope that this event showed Trump how important it is to keep sovereignty on that particular outpost. I mean, it's right in the middle of the Indian Ocean, which is so strategic, and we see well, that's why the B-52 and going there right now.
Yeah. And I mean, it was instrumental, I think, in during the Afghan war. You know, Diego Garcia was used a lot for both troop and other transports. And I don't know if
And even if
the SEAL team who took out Osama bin Laden, I don't know if they came out of Diego Garcia or somewhere else. But I mean, as you say, it's a really strategic location. It's very convenient. It covers everything from East Africa over the Middle East and to India. So yeah.
And even if the US is able to continue using the base there, which is part of the agreement, part of this relates to the sheer naivety of the fact that China is going to be far more able to have a presence nearby via the Mauritian government, and therefore that it makes it less secure than it would have been, when it's under full British ownership.
Yeah, so this archipelago, I believe it has a bunch of smaller islands that, they could do something similar to what they've done in the South China Sea too, with the under the agreement of Mauritius. I don't know if the deal is with Britain contains any clauses that would prevent China from doing that, but
Knowing our government, knowing the people involved, I wouldn't be surprised if they could do what they want.
right.
And anyway, what reliance can you have on clauses with China? Look at Hong Kong and what was supposed to happen after the handover of Hong Kong back to China in terms of freedom of speech and stuff, and we've seen those utterly violated, and the British government be less than vocal, really, when it should have been far firmer in terms of stressing what the original agreement was. And of course, we're at the same point where China is looking to create a massive embassy in London, in what was I think it was the Royal Mint previously, in the centre of London. And already there's been a lot of suggestion that will be extremely dangerous for the UK because of where it is and the size of it. And that would essentially provide too much territory to China right within the heart of London for them to perform all sorts of nefarious activities. Not to mention, of course, the involvement with other things such as nuclear power and telecoms and stuff, which has been, again, naively treated by the UK for too many years and opens a threat from China for sure.
And just one comment about Hong Kong. I mean, the major issue there was to honor the contract at all in the first place, because a contract with a communist regime like China, you don't. Britain should just have kept it, so yeah.
Yeah, it's not an accident that the agreement was,
Yeah.
Tony Blair and his company. But
And it's not an accident, by the way, just on the other story, that hospital we're talking about, under which the tunnel was, they've just filled with concrete, where Mohammed Sinwar was found, was the European hospital in Gaza, and was funded by, God knows whose taxes within Europe, in order to have it there for humanitarian purposes, including the humanitarian purposes of terrorists. Which is clearly something that they make no distinguishing measures for.
Talking about follow,
But unfortunately, again, I think the big betrayal of Hong Kong was on Margaret Thatcher's watch, wasn't it?
It was
This is not limited to politicians on the left, unfortunately.
Fortunately, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Talking about the following the money, we've heard that the Israeli hackers actually went after a bank in Iran that was used to fund the ballistic missile program. Daniel, have you heard anything more about this? Because I wouldn't be surprised if part of this hacking on a bank in Iran were actually linked to the fact that lots of people from the regime are making their way out and perhaps taking lots of money with them. So I think it would be interesting to see where the money was supposed to be transferred to. I bet lots of it would have gone to Russia. Have you read anything else about it?
Yeah. So Israel, or rather, okay, I might have misread that. Yeah. So there was a cyber attack. I'm still not 100% sure if it was done by Israel or by an Israeli hacker group that is sort of just being pro-Israel and doing whatever they can. But basically, it targeted a bank and basically infrastructure, so they are not able to get cash from it. Also went after ATMs, so people cannot get cash out. This is absolutely what needs to happen, similar to what ER said on the earlier show about that police has to be also targeted, is the fact that once you cannot get money, once you have nobody sort of enforcing law, that's where society falls. And I think this is what needs to happen with Iran as much as quickly as possible so Iran can fall apart, and then we can maybe step in and do something, or somebody steps in and does something, but it can be taken over as soon as possible. Now, just a few more things that I wanted to mention earlier. Somebody in the chat, and I've seen it around, has been saying that former Iranian president has been taken out. I've seen that a couple of times, but I haven't seen like anything close to official confirmation. The story is that apparently it wasn't even like Israel, but possibly just some Iranians going out and basically taking him out. So might see at some point if this did happen. And also, I think somebody mentioned earlier, which I wanted to say that. I don't know if you guys remember when Liz Truss came into power and somebody was recording a cabbage to see what will go on longer. And I think somebody is doing this with IRGC chiefs, whoever comes in, and a milk on a scorching sun to see what will last longer. So far, milk is winning, but yeah, so good stuff.
And of course, if that other story is true about Ahmadinejad being taken out, he would be one of the key figures that's recognized across the world. Was he one of the Iranian faces that we are at least familiar with, even if everybody's not been up to date on who's been within the military as fast as they've got a big red cross through their photograph. At least this is one of the figures that people do recognize in the same way that al-Khamenei is obviously a key figure that people recognize, and the symbolic nature of those kind of figures is important, isn't it, in terms of the collapse of a regime, the final collapse of the Iranian regime, if that's where we're heading. Just on the hacking of the bank, this is the Sefer Bank, in Iran, and as you say, I'm not sure whether it's the Israeli government or via a hacking group, but that hacking group, in whichever form, did put out a message to say that what they'd done, and did point out within that message about the brave Iranians who were essentially part of that operation, which made it possible for them to be able to cyber attack this bank. And given that this bank had been funding ballistic missiles and nuclear programs and terrorist networks, and of course, bypassing the sanctions, the international sanctions that have been against Iran. Those are all good reasons to cyber attack it, of course. But of course, it's interesting that they put a special emphasis on the Iranian resistance within Iran. And the fact that has had an effect here, which means that it also affects things like transactions at petrol stations and those kind of things. It means the collapse, or it could potentially mean that the assistance of the collapse of the working society, which is what will bring down the government. And it's the fall of the government, which this would most lead to, which I think is what makes it encouraging. So that's one strand of it, as well as the future strands may include, of course, the US and their bunker busting bomb taking out the mountain that Fordo, the nuclear site, is part of. It's not just the weaponry; it's also the intelligence, and the cyber stuff is all strings within the same overall pattern here, which we're pleased to see all round, I think. Daniel.
Yes. Yeah, sorry to jump in real quick, but new report, Israel estimates that the US will join soon the attack against Iran. Now there's supposed to be a security consultation at the bunker at 10 p.m. Of Netanyahu with a limited ministerial forum. Now there was supposed to be a meeting tomorrow at I think like 5 or 4 Israeli time. So the fact that this is coming in pretty much suddenly, I haven't heard of it before, and that's a meeting in basically 2 hours. This again could be big. And just quickly, we have super chats from Bonnie. Thank you so much. Super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. Super chat from Gail. Thank you so much. Super chat from Apollo Zeus. Thank you so much. And a super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, under 2-tier here, nothing will be goof. Although I'm also reading that apparently British forces are coming into Middle East. What was it exactly? Secretary confirms UK military forces have started deploying in the Middle East.
Well, of course. I mean, you have to be part now. Now that victory is in sight, all the parties in the West are gonna be claiming, oh, yeah, we need a slice of the cake when it comes to.
Yeah, you know, it's like Turkey declaring war on Nazi Germany in like May of 45.
Yeah, the Me Too movement, right?
Amazing how people can locate a backbone at the last moment, isn't it? Well, so, what do we think is going to happen next then? I mean, this is fast-moving stuff, isn't it? This is, as you say, if these meetings are being brought forward, then this really could be a matter of hours that we're talking about. And this, are we going to beat the Six-Day War? I mean, it's not. Is it not looking far off that in terms of an achievement? And this is of course to stress this is Israel's achievement, and all credit to the Israelis, to the IDF, indeed to Netanyahu on this score, and how this particular phase of the war has been fought. I mean, I think, and of course the Israeli people in terms of the fortitude they've shown, particularly in these last few days when some of those rockets have made it through the defenses, and of course there's been some loss of life in Israeli cities. Anders.
What comes next in terms of if the leadership, after the leadership has fallen in Iran, you mean?
And what are the steps you would like to see from this point? Because there's always the fear at this point that you end up with a vacuum, or you end up with
Right.
a lack of a day after plan, and all of those kind of things, particularly
Yeah.
when success is so rapid.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see how the Iranians would react to this if it comes uh, if it ends up with a regime change, because we're talking about a country with 85, 90 million people, and right now a large majority is united against the current regime, but that does not necessarily mean that they are in agreement of what to come next, you know. So there are a lot of factions inside of Iran that where the lid has been put on that for decades, basically. So I actually read an interesting article on Substack by one Andrew Fox. I was not previously familiar with him. I got it through the through another site that reposted it, but I found it interesting. He talked about how a couple of scenarios that it could end in fragmentation and civil conflict, where you know the different minorities inside of Iran. I mean, the Persians, the Farsi Persians are the biggest group, but there are minorities. You have the Kurds in the north, up against the Turkish border. You have the Azaris, which is also it's a Turkish group inside Iran. The Kurds, I don't think, consider themselves as of Turkish uh, descent. And then you have on the on the eastern side of Iran, up against Pakistan, you have the Baluchis, which is another significant majority, and we know that they have been, you know, long been trying to or been opposed to on the other side of the border in Pakistan. They have been making a lot of noise against the Pakistani leadership, and who knows what might come out of that. So that is one scenario that he is kind of considering, that it would be Iran will become fragmented. Secondly, it could be a hardline military junta. So we know that there are conflicts between the the Republican Guard, which is the group that is supporting the Islamic leadership, and the regular army. You know, they are not the best of friends. So it could be that the military is someone there is surfacing and just establishing a military dictatorship in Iran. And then there is obviously the scenario that there is some kind of transition into a democratic society. A lot of younger Iranians are apparently among younger Iranians, apparently the Shah's son or his grandson, Reza Pahlavi or something, is quite popular. So I mean, there is a scenario where he could come back. In what capacity? Who knows? Will he be like a Prince Charles without any real power? You just or like King Juan Carlos in Spain after the Franco regime fell, you know, he appeared as a unifying figure in Spain. Something similar could happen here too. It's really hard to say. I don't know how well prepared the Iranian diaspora is for this. I know that they have been in contact with U.S. forces. I don't know how closely they cooperate with Israel, but it'll be also be interesting to see what emerges there. If there are other people from abroad who are interested in coming home and be part of the future of Iran. I'm sure they are, but again, how united are they? You know, you will see, I'm sure, people from the entire political spectrum, from left to right, trying to if not take control, but at least be part of what the future of Iran will look like.
Yeah, I would have assumed that because the Pahlavis have been quite active in terms of, remember us, we were there. So I would guess there would be trying to restore the Pahlavi government, if you like, propped by US or whatever. And bear in mind that the Islamic faction in Iran are Shiite, so there could be some support from the Sunni side. There's speculation at this point, but yeah, I think the Pahlavi uh, government, which would keep the groups together and then perhaps take it from there, would be a possibility, certainly a palatable one, which will bypass any faction wars. But we'll see. I mean, we haven't got rid of the mullahs yet, so yeah.
Right. It's a little bit early yet, but obviously in this situation, people always speculate and I mean I think it's on some level obviously it's a good discussion to have because you need to map out what the options are and be prepared for whatever happens yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what we can say, regardless of what would come after, assuming we take out their nuclear power, Iran will be reduced to a secondary power in the region for quite a while. And so that threat should definitely be gone.
Is there any more breaking news, Daniel, which we ought to reference in terms of what's going on whilst we've been on air?
Oh, talking about Reza Pahlavi, he will deliver a message to the Iranian people tonight at 9 p.m. Iran time, which should be in just 7 minutes because Iran has the half an hour thing, so they're offset. So okay, people should listen to that. Something to also remember about if he does come back in, which I think might happen and maybe should happen. The fact is that he doesn't have to be a monarch. People maybe are not super aware, but before World War II and during, Bulgaria, for example, was a kingdom, and there was a Tsar Simeon. I think he was like 8 when he became a king, so it was like a regency. But then when communists took over, he fled the country. Then he came back after communists fell, and he was prime minister, I think, around 2001 or something like that. So he wasn't that sort of like a unifying figure that came back, but he can absolutely be sort of somebody who comes back in. I mean, establishing of Czechoslovakia, Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk was somebody who was exiled from the country and came back and became a president. So yeah, absolutely, you can have these sort of figures coming back in, especially somebody like him who has been, I believe, active. It's not like just a week ago he saw what's happening and came onto X to talk about this. He has been something who has been active in this for a while. So one more. Oh, we have a super chat from Supikask. Thank you so much. She says, I think this was either a post from Trump or Trump just said it somebody, but Trump said, "Can somebody please tell Cookie Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon?" And yeah, I think there was a discussion with Tucker Carlson and somebody else, and yeah, Trump is going strong at them, so great for him. And yeah, I mean, something I have noticed is I think I said it, not sure if on earlier show today or yesterday, is the fact that I think Trump is the best part of Trump's administration, which is kind of scary because I think it's like the opposite of his first administration, where I think he was the worst part of it. But now when you have people like Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance. I mean, we saw the leaks when it came to Houthi operation, right? Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance didn't want the operation against the Houthis. It was Trump who was pushing it. So yeah, it's kind of weird scenario. I wish he reshuffled his government if he really wishes to go after Iran.
I
Yeah,
think
I would qualify that by saying that, you know, I mean, it's kind of a scary proposition, or that Trump is the best in the Trump administration on foreign policy in the Middle East right now. I mean, there are other people in the Trump administration who are a lot better than Trump, but they are not in any significant positions when it comes to what we're talking about here.
Well, I'd
yeah,
still say Secretary of State Marco Rubio is probably still better, but I think a bunch of people would have to be taken out before he takes power. So I
Yeah,
think
and Marco Rubio has sold his soul, so you know.
kind of.
my problem is that Trump seems to be, in two minds himself. He came out with G7 saying, "Yeah, we shouldn't appease Iran, and it's had a total victory or whatever. They can't have a nuke." And then at the same time, he said, "Yeah, Putin and Xi Jinping should be part of G7." It's like, what? But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
I think it's fair to say that on Middle East, because we can't extrapolate to Ukraine or to China on this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very selective. Yeah. Anders, any last thoughts, and where can people find you?
You can find me on Substack, andersingemarson.substack.com, and my book, Think Right or Wrong, Not Left or Right, which has a chapter on foreign policy, is available on Amazon.
Thank you very much, Anders. And Daniel, to you, any last comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, just quickly, Bonnie says there really is no cabinet. They're all sycophants. It's kind of weird because like Trump is openly going against like Tulsi Gabbard. Like they are openly like disagreeing on air, which is weird. Like I'm not sure if we ever seen such a, because like Trump can fire her. Maybe he doesn't know that. I'm not sure how many people he fired in like his first administration. Maybe he thinks it's like he's stuck with J.D. Vance, so he cannot get rid of him, but he can just fire other people. We have one more super chat from Supikask. She says, Kurds aren't Turkic people. This is like saying Jews and Europeans are Europeans or Khazars. I don't think Anders said they are Turkic. I think he specified that. He
No,
doesn't
no,
think that.
I was saying ethnically, you know, in that region, you have Turks and you have Persians, and I mean, it's a whole, it would take a show of its own to go through that region and all the ethnic strifes, and then so you have, sorry, you have ethnicity, you have religion, and you have nationality, you know, all in that melting pot there that is creating and has created the strife and problems for thousands of years, literally.
Yeah, I mean, general ethnic is a very weird concept. I mean, even talking about Arabs is kind of weird because, like, Arabs is a language. It's not like unifying thing among
Right.
them people, and yeah, it's doesn't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. One thing I did want to mention because you mentioned the sort of the stride of the cultural split. So I think the Communist Party of Iran has been calling for national uprising, and Communist Party of Iran is just Kurds,
Right. Yeah.
or like predominantly Kurds.
Yeah. Okay. And one thing I wanted to mention just as we close then is obviously seeing Trump on the winning side, I think is necessary for the future as well. And I think obviously, had Harris won the presidency, then there would have been a communique coming out of the G7, and it would have had the word de-escalation all over it. And quite possibly, although it's impossible to take a parallel view of where we'd be right now, I doubt we would necessarily be at the point of Iran falling. But we cannot know that for certain. However, at least this is the right message that you're getting finally. And if the US is part of that final end game, so be it. That would be a good thing. And maybe, just maybe, there might be a lesson there for dealing with future dictators in different parts of the world, for Trump and for all those that try and appease with evil wherever they find it.
And you have to admit that Trump is the only one who would stand up to Macron. I mean, the guy should be slapped.
And on that note, we will bid you farewell. Thank you very much for joining us, Anders. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to our super chatters. And of course, every day at the moment, we've got 2 episodes of the Daily Objective. I won't give you the times off the top of my head, apart from the British Times, which is 12 noon and 5:30 in the UK. If you want to work out what that is, or Daniel can tell you.
Yeah, so noon UK time, which is 7 a.m. Eastern, and 2 p.m. Israeli. And then I also need to find out Australian time, because apparently a bunch of Australians started watching us on the early show. The second show is at 5:30 p.m. UK time, which is 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and 7:30 Israeli time.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you'll all be able to join us for one of those shows coming up soon. And we'll keep covering this conflict as it goes on into what is hopefully its only final days. So thanks very much, guys. Thanks everyone, and see you soon. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.